Hi, everybody. Welcome to the You Really Can Change the World with Design event. We are going to give it a minute to get started. I'm going to do some intros, but as we're doing that, let's do a little bit of housekeeping. So welcome so much. We are super glad to have you here. I'm so excited to talk to Christina. My name is Jessica Campbell, not Team Design Lab. My name is Jessica Campbell. I am the Career Services Program Manager here at Design Lab. I will be your moderator and host, supporting Christina through the presentation. But yes, if you can jump in the chat, if you are a Design Lab student or alum, you know the drill. Say hello. Tell us where you're from. We're so excited to have you. For those of you who are new to sessions and new to Livestorm, down along the bottom, you will see the chat feature, and you'll also see a section for questions. So as we go along, if you do have questions for Christina, there might be time at the end. And if there is, we would love to highlight those for you. So please pop into the questions channel, ask those as we go. If you see a question you like, hit upvote on it. So if we do have time, I know which questions to hit first. And of course, if I am able to answer those as we go, I will try to make sure that they do get answered. But we've got folks from all over California, Hawaii, Costa Rica. Wow. Yay. Thank you so much for joining. Oh my God. All right. So I see a lot of people in the chat, Christina, and a lot of people have joined us already. So I know you've got a lot of amazing stuff to cover. I'm just going to give y'all a brief highlight of Christina, and then I'm going to let her take it from here. Christina Kelly is our host or our speaker for today. She's going to talk to you about why there has not been a better time to get into UX, which is very apt right now and where things are at in the market and where folks are feeling, but there really hasn't been. Christina has worked in UX for 20 years. She is also herself a career transitioner. She's won a few Webbies. She's really fantastic. And I would say, most importantly to me, she's a mentor here at Design Lab. So you have the opportunity to connect and chat with her if you aren't already a part of our community. But Christina, I'm going to kick it over to you if you want to start launching your slides.
Yeah, thank you so much. Let me just do the little housekeeping tech bit here of making sure I can do this. There we go. Okay, can everyone see my screen? Yes, it's working. Yes, I will take it away. Thank you so much for having me here today. I'm really excited. I've been such a fan of Design Lab ever since I've been mentoring here. Gosh, over 2 years. I can't even believe it. It's been a really long time. And I was chatting with Jessica the other day, or a few weeks ago now, and I mentioned that I had these ideas. There's never been a better time. The students are losing hope. They need to know it's okay. There is so much work out there. It's bananas. And maybe some of you, I can't see who's here, but maybe some of my mentees are here. I see some party hats going off. There has never been a better time to get into UX right now. We are experiencing important changes in the world, and you really can change the world with design. And this is what we're going to talk about today. Let's see here how I can move my slides forward. Okay, what we'll cover today, just give you a sneak peek of what's going on. Hold on, I'm just making sure y'all can see everything. Okay, I got the hang of this Livestorm thing now. What we'll cover today, first, we're going to talk about the benefits of a career in UX and why there's never been a better time to get started, and how UX designers are at the forefront of changing the world with design. There's so much changing right now. Guess who's doing it? UX, not the engineers, sorry engineers, but the UX designers are doing it. We're also going to look at some UX career paths and salary ranges. Woohoo! So this will keep you staying tuned to see how much money you can make. And what's really interesting about, we're going to look at 6 different career paths. 2 of them don't require Figma or any design skills. So if you're thinking about UX design, thinking, oh, but I'm not a designer, I don't know how to design anything, I'm colorblind, whatever, that's okay. The same process applies to career paths that don't require, I keep saying Figma as if other platforms don't exist, but it's the popular kid in school right now, Figma. Also, I'm going to share a little bit about how I got into UX and lived to tell the tale. There weren't any boot camps back then, I'll tell you that much. And also 5 things you can do right now to get started in UX today. Today. And even if you're already in the boot camp or anything like that, these are things that you should know about and that you can do. So my goal today is to inspire you and help you on your path to change your career and change your life. Just a few more tidbits about me. I also go by Cece as a nickname of mine, Cece Kelly. I've been doing this, as we said earlier, for 23 years now. I feel like I'm the grandma. I'm finally the grandma of UX. And some of the clients I've worked with in the past, AT&T, Comic-Con, Disney, Netflix, Saturday Night Live, MasterCard, PBS, Expedia, a whole bunch of places. Won Clio Bronze for work I did on Netflix, Clio Silver, Sony Pictures. And I have a background even before I got into UX. Don't forget, I'm a career changer too. I was in documentary film production and I went to NYU Film School and all kinds of interesting things that have really helped me on my path in UX. All right, so here's a question of the day. So you want to get into UX, whether you're already in a boot camp or you just learned from a friend, from somebody's uncle's brother that UX even exists. And I even hear people say that in the career services. How did you hear about UX? Well, a friend of my uncle's brother, something like that. You're in the right place, no matter what stage you're at. You're already studying, you're thinking about it, you're on the fence, you're in the right place, and hopefully you're going to get a lot of inspiration here. So let's get started with this thing. So first of all, why UX? That's one of the questions that I ask my students right off the bat, because honestly, I gotta tell you, you could spend 3 years becoming a lawyer and have a very clear, someone's going to hold your hand every step of the way. Whereas UX is a little bit different. It's more entrepreneurial, actually. You have to have some ideas of your own. Not that lawyers don't have ideas of their own, but I digress. You have to have a vision for, how you see things, and you have to be very curious. So UX is a really interesting career path to choose. And some of the reasons I hear that people want to get into UX is that it combines creativity and technology. I was in this camp when I first heard about UX, and I'll tell you more about that later, that it combines creativity and technology. It's definitely that right brain, left brain kind of sensibility. So a lot of people are thinking about UX because of that. And then on the practical side, you don't need a fancy design experience to get started. You will learn throughout training and osmosis and your, experience with UX just by using things like your smartphone, your, Android or Apple device or tablet or whatever. You're going to learn a lot about design, and you'll be able to create and recreate designs, but you don't have to have that background. It's a learnable thing. It is learnable. You don't have to have a degree. No, you don't. You don't have to have any kind of formal degrees in anything. What does come in handy is some kind of professional experience in something. It doesn't necessarily have to even be in UX. In fact, it doesn't have to be in UX. Just anything that makes you, not, completely green or a complete newbie, just some kind of professional experience of some kind. And I will say, you may think I'm referring to office work or corporations or working for big companies. Not necessarily. I have quite a few students who their only prior experience to learning about UX in Design Lab, they were a barista, they were a bartender, but I still consider that professional services or creative services experience, because they're dealing with human interaction and empathy, and they know how to figure things out, and they can think on their feet. So that counts too, but you don't have to have a degree, which is very exciting. You can make really good money. Now, that's probably one of the things you probably did a Google search. How can I make good money and not have to go, back to school? This definitely comes up, and we are going to talk about that a little bit later. I'm going to give you ballpark salary ranges for different career paths that you can follow with UX. And you don't have to know how to code. It's really interesting. I know when I first got into this business, people were saying, oh, you have to learn how to code. Oh, do you know how to code? But et cetera, et cetera. It's like, no, you don't have to code. It's nothing to do with code. Someone else is going to do the code. You don't have to do any code. Now, some UX designers, aspiring or existing, they like that. They like coding and they learn all sorts of platforms and languages. So that's okay too. You can be that uber right brain, left brain person to do that kind of work. That is great. And that definitely, is an enhancement to your skill set. But to be a UX designer, to enter this industry, a product designer, you do not have to know how to code, and you will never be asked to code. Some people say it's fun to play with designs and color. I have a number of students that go, I just want to play with the colors. I just want to play with the words and the shapes. And I agree. I'm in that camp as well. I can really geek out on the designs and really just get into finessing everything. And you get lost in it. You totally get lost in that zone of playing with designs and color. And that is a perfectly good reason to want to do this work as well. I would say one of perhaps, I don't want to say more important because that's too subjective, objective, I don't know. But it's fun to make stuff that people will use. And I like this idea as well. Everything that you make, someone's going to use. If it's a website about washing dogs, someone's going to use that, and you can make that, and someone's going to see that, and they're going to have a clean dog. So that's an exciting part about UX design, especially when you think about all the apps on your iPhone, which who makes those? UX designers. People are using those every day to do all kinds of things. I mean, I can, get the directions to the doctor's office, and I can fly, a SpaceX Falcon Heavy to the moon with this thing. So this is a powerful device, and guess who made it? All the apps. UX designers, you're going to make stuff that people can use. That's another really important reason to get into UX design. So some of you might be saying, yeah, that's great and all, but what about all the layoffs? No one is hiring. And I wanted to add a sound effect of a buzzer here. It's like, yeah, a lot of people are laying off. I work for a company right now that's going through mass layoffs. That is a reality, but it's not, I would say, the whole truth across the board. Companies are still hiring. Business is still moving. The world is still turning. We are living in a rare moment in time where there's a convergence of a lot of different aspects of technology, of emergent human behavior as a result of using things like this. I'm holding up my iPhone, for over 20 years now. In fact, it hasn't even been a full 20 years since the iPhone has been out, which is radically mind-blowing. To some of you, 20 years might be practically your whole life. But to people like me, I had a whole life and a whole career experience before this. So I can tell you that this changed the world, and guess who designed it? UX designers. But and this was a pivotal moment when you think about 2005, 2006, 2007, when the iPhone was really coming into its own and people were getting in line at the Apple store to get this thing. It radically changed the world. And we're at another pivot point right now that I'm going to talk more about in a second. But UX designers are at the center of this change. When we think about things like accessibility, inclusivity, and sustainability, what does a unified design system look like and feel like and sound like when we consider design for everyone? How does design for everyone work? It's so interesting. A client that I was working with last year gave me the opportunity to work with a team at Harvard University that was completely focused on studying accessibility and design and digital design and really design of everything. But with us, they were focused on digital design. And it was really interesting. The person who led that lab at Harvard, he had, with low vision, he also had something where he uses every digital product mobile, for example, zoomed in to 300%, and he inverts color. His brain sees the the opposite of whatever colors that you chose. So much for picking that perfect, look at this color purple that I have that I labored over. Oh, it has to be that pop of magenta. He can't even see that pop of magenta. He zoomed in at 300%. So everything that you painstakingly put above the so-called fold in your design, he might not even really be able to see half of it. He's zoomed in at 300%, designed for that. Designed for that. These are like on the radical spectrum of things, the radical end of things, the things that we need to think about when we're designing with accessibility in mind. Inclusivity, when we're designing for inclusivity, we think about, how we label things and people and places, how we refer to things, gender equality, gender preference and identity. All of these things come into play. And all of these things just started coming to the forefront in the mainstream of design really recently. Again, I'm talking about this pivotal moment in design where UX matters more than ever. Because the other people on your team, they're not figuring this out. Your project manager is not figuring this out. Your account director is not figuring this out. Who's figuring it out? It's the UX team and the different flavors of UX that we'll talk about in just a moment. You guys are figuring this out. Sustainability. Think about this. This blew my mind. All right. A student from Design Lab brought this up. She was really interested in design for sustainability. And I've heard that word around for quite a while. Sustainable design, design for sustainability. I said, oh, that's cool. Sustainable. Yeah, we like that. But what is it really? And she said, it's when the earth, think about it this way. It's when the earth is a persona. The earth is a user. Absolutely blew my mind. The earth is a user. The earth is a persona. What does that mean? What does that mean exactly? So I've seen a couple of examples. So one example, it's kind of a really straightforward, really on the nose example, not very nuanced, but it'll give you an idea. So think about this. You're ordering takeout food. Probably many of you have used Grubhub or Uber Eats or DoorDash or whatever the newfangled delivery service is. And at one point in the process, the customer journey, right? At the end, when you're ordering, it asks you, do you want utensils? Do you want paper plates? Do we need to send napkins with this order? And the reason they're asking is that that if you're not going to need that, one, why waste it? And where it's just going to end up in a landfill. The earth is a user. Earth does not, what are the earth's motivations and goals and needs and requirements? Don't fill up the landfill. So that's one example, of design for sustainability, a very obvious one. Another one is just designing for, optimal usage, electricity usage, for example. Are your pages loading quickly? Are your images too heavy? Is your design too heavy? Is this, using a lot of power? Is it, are things downloading slowly? That's another aspect. But when the earth is a persona, it really just opens up your mind. What does the earth need? Design for sustainability. So accessibility, inclusivity, and sustainability are three areas that are converging right now and exploding. And who's figuring all this stuff out? UX designers are doing it. Another area that you've probably heard more about is this concept of the Internet of Things, meaning basically everything is wired. Sorry, my nose is getting itchy all of a sudden. Everything is wired. Everything's alive. You may have heard of pervasive computing or ubiquitous computing, the idea of the smart home, the idea of the smart refrigerator that knows when you ran out of peanut butter and it's going to order the food for you. It's like everything is connected. So computing, human computer interaction is no longer us sitting in front of a laptop or a desktop or walking around with our head in our phone. It's the idea of ubiquitous computing, pervasive computing, where the ability to interact with some kind of digital product service experience is woven into the fabric of our existence. Hello, Dolly. That's conceptually what the Internet of Things is all about. And UX design is who's figuring all of this out, the flow of it. When you walk up to the bus stop, and if anyone walks up to a bus stop anymore, and there's some kind of panel there, a touch screen that you can interact with, and what can you do there, and what's going to happen? Who's figuring all of that out? Who's mapping out that little affinity map? Who's making that customer journey? UX designers are doing it. They're critical in ensuring that these devices are user-friendly, effective, secure, and can provide the best possible user experience. User experience designers are figuring this out. This is the stuff that's happening right now. And even more than all of those things, the thing that really, I think, hit us all over the noggin this year, late last year and early this year, artificial intelligence, machine learning. I mean, show with the little emojis. I'm going to go over to the other screen. I want to see how many people have been thinking about ChatGPT and my Midjourney and DALL-E and the impact that's going to have on your job. Guess what? It is going to have an impact on your job. Some of you might be thinking it's going to come and get your job. It might try to, because here's the funny thing. Right now is a really similar moment when it comes to AI and machine learning. It's a very similar moment than it was when the internet itself, what we know as the internet, really first started coming up in the mid-90s. Believe it or not, but 92, 93, 94, people were saying, oh, this internet thing, it's not going to be around for long. I mean, show me with an emoji. It's like, how hysterical is that? People were really saying that. This internet thing, oh, it's just a flash in the pan. That's what they were saying. And what are they saying about artificial intelligence right now? It's kind of the same thing. Oh, it's going to go away. Oh, it's no big deal. Some people are saying that. But I think the right way to look at it is, oh, it's here to stay. And just the way the internet completely night and day changed our world in the mid-90s, this is what's going to happen with artificial intelligence. Everything is changing, right? We can say it's going to change out from under us, or we're going to collaborate with it. That's the opportunity. And I think that's the opportunity for UX designers, is how to collaborate with it. Because here's the troubling thing. Businesses, big companies look at AI and they say like, oh, now we don't have to hire all these people. Or they say, oh, now we can do it faster. Now we can launch apps faster. We can just tell ChatGPT what to write. We don't need content writers anymore, which is wrong. I'm going to debunk all of this in a second. But this is what they're thinking. They're thinking faster, better, cheaper. And if you've ever heard of that paradigm before, it used to be that you can't have all three. You can't have faster, and you can have faster and better, but it won't be cheap. You can have fast and cheap, but it won't be better, et cetera, all the different permutations of those three things. But guess what? Right now, world changed. Now you can have faster, better, and cheaper. Thanks to AI. Thank you, AI. You can have faster, better, cheaper all together for the first time in the history of the world. And that's a scary thing, unless you're a UX designer. That's the thing. You guys are in the catbird seat, if you ever heard that old-timey saying, which means you're in a position of power. You're in a seat of power to help figure this out. How do we collaborate with AI? How do we create opportunities and enhancements? How can we use AI to operationalize and make more efficient things that can be faster, but how do we use our minds to make them better? And so it's a confluence, it's a synergy of these things. Guess who's in charge of this too? Who knows? Who knows? Who knows the answer? It's UX designers. It's you guys. whether you already are or you're working on it. Although but I would argue if you're here, you are already a UX designer. I'm going to tell you more about that in a second. But artificial intelligence and ethical design. This is another area that where UX designers are changing the world with design. You guys are in charge. All right, I have to go back to this other screen here to make this thing go. I just wanted to see the emojis. Okay, so here's the thing. This can be your job. This is your job. Look at those cute fireworks. You got to love these little presentations. This is your job as a UX designer. But first, I do want to clear up a few misconceptions about UX, because these misconceptions are still pervasive in the workplace. You really don't hear them here amongst us. You know, we're kind of preaching to the choir, right? Hold on while I get a little sip of my Starbucks. But there are misconceptions in the workplace, especially if you end up in a company that does not have a mature UX practice. And not everyone does. Some companies do. Right now, I'm working with Expedia. They have a very mature practice. Hands down, the best I've ever worked with, I got to tell you. And then some organizations that I will not name. You think they were very mature. Their name would say, oh, they must have it going on, but they don't. There are misconceptions, and that can be very frustrating. So that's why I am trying to arm you and inspire you with this information, so you have a way to frame up the true value of UX. But here are the misconceptions that we want to clear up. UX is not the wireframes. Lots of time in the design process, the product development process, you'll hear things, oh, when we're ready for you, when we're ready for UX, we will bring you in, thinking that all you're doing is the wireframes. And you know, from knowing anything about UX, or just from using an app or something, you know there's more to it than wireframes. Wireframes is kind of the middle stage. There was a whole before figuring out stage, and then there's the whole after the final UI. So certainly UX can't be just the wireframes, but there are organizations that think that. So you want to be armed with information to be able to evangelize, you know, a mature process. UX is not Figma. UX is not just using Figma. Figma is a tool. It's like using Figma as a tool is the outcome of doing UX. UX is the figuring out and the planning and the strategizing. It's not, and Figma is the tool in which you're going to make things, but it is not UX itself. UX is a process, is conceptual design. So, but you will hear that. People think that UX is the people who are using Figma, and that's not correct. And UX is not the button with the 5-point corner radius and a drop shadow. You get into a lot of organizations that think just that perfecting pixel perfectness is what the UX is all about. They conflate it with UI, the user interface design, the visual design. Now that is a component of the entire UX toolbox, but it's just one component. It's not the only thing. And then all the other stuff that the UX geniuses and brains can do, the figuring out, the problem solving, what is the true unmet need? Are we designing for the right thing in the first place? You know, that all, it's more than just how good the button looks or how good the components look. And a lot of organizations conflate that UX is just this component design, and that could not be further from the truth. Here's what UX is. This is a mashup of Richard Saul Wurman, who I'm going to talk about it in a second, and a little bit of my jazz hands and pontification. Here's what UX is. And I want this to sink in, because UX is very, very important. UX is the 21st century creative services profession that transforms information into experiences that help people on their personal path to knowledge, satisfaction, and happiness, fueling an evolutionary cultural ecosystem. I want everyone to say that 3 times fast. No, and put it on your t-shirt, memorize it, homework for you. This is what UX is. UX is about making culture, not screens. It's not just the outcome of the thing that you're putting in your Figma file. It's the vision and setting a vision for a certain design, solving a problem in a certain way that's really going to make a difference for someone, that's going to help someone on their path to do something, whether it's directions to the grocery store, or it's, how to build a rocket ship app or 3D print a rocket. Who heard of that? There was some guys over the summer, in their 20s, they 3D printed a rocket. We should be 3D printing houses, but that's what I have to figure out how to do. We need to be 3D printing houses for people. But this is what UX is. It's setting a vision and figuring out how to get there. That's what you guys are doing. I really want you to feel that and take that in. It's not just about who knows Figma the best, or who has the best case study. And we're going to talk about that in a couple of weeks. I have another presentation coming up. But it's this, setting a vision and how do we get there? That's you guys. You guys are doing that. But let's unpack that a little bit. First of all, let's describe what information is, what we're talking about when we talk about information, and how does information turn into an experience that helps people. I think it'd be important to understand this. So UX designers use information to figure out the problems to solve and how to solve them, as we were talking about. So here's a bunch of ways that you do that. And if you're already in the Design Lab Bootcamp, you're learning this. If you're not, you will learn it. But a lot of it will make sense to you because I'm going to get into this in a minute. This should sound like a familiar flow of activities. So when we talk about information, what is information that you're going to be turning into experiences? We think about first this idea of context and conditions. What are the surrounding circumstances that are in the wheelhouse, the space of the problem that I'm trying to solve, of the industry that I'm in, of the industry that I'm in, of the thing that I'm trying to design for? So the information that we're gathering are things like, competitor research, marketplace research, internal operations of a business, the technological capabilities, assumptions and dependencies that we have around a particular process, requirements of the thing that we're trying to design, near and short-term goals, other kinds of visions and needs that an organization might have. All of this is information that you're gathering, that you're going to figure out how to, that you're going to use in your design. Another aspect is what I'm putting a header on this called data. And I messed around with this for a while. I think data encapsulates it pretty well. So other kinds of information that you need to know, embody, gather, have in order to do your design: target audience demographics and psychographics, behavior, quantity, how much are people doing something, frequency, how often, drivers, how are they getting there? How are they getting to your website? How are they getting to your app? What do they see first, second? This is all information that you need for your designs. Another category I call cultural forces and trends, culture and trends. Other pieces of information, things like current events, the political landscape, disruptors, memes, and the zeitgeist. Or just think about, how about a pandemic? How about a pandemic for informing design? How about a pandemic for all of a sudden turning virtual healthcare into a reality instead of a fantasy? Really interesting. And so this is other examples of information that you're dealing with when you are a UX designer. Just as a quick story, just before the pandemic, I was working for a big health insurance company, and I was brought on as a UX strategist to help them figure out what would the telehealth landscape look like for this insurance company, this health insurance company. What would it look like 5 years in the future? Okay, so this is November of, no, this is like July. This is like the whole end of 2019, July, August, September, October, November. Started that nationwide study, talking to doctors, patients, hospitals, big ones, small ones, everything in between, urban, rural. And every single doctor in those first few months were saying, oh yeah, that telehealth thing, yeah, we're going to get around to it. We're going to do it maybe in 5 years. We don't have the office space. We don't have the bandwidth. We don't have the office staff. We don't have any training. We don't have the equipment. Okay. Guess what happened that following March? they had to activate telehealth. So we continued the study, and a lot of what we had learned so far, we were able to package up and operationalize to roll out to the providers that were in network for this health insurance company to help them like do telehealth instantly, not in 5 years, but now. So we made an app, we had instructions, we had a playbook, all this kind of stuff. And then we continued the study even into the pandemic to understand how providers were coping with how they were handling it, how they were delivering the telehealth services. This company even bought a third-party telehealth app to help, leapfrog them into the space. But hey, guess who helped them figure all that out with information? UX designers. UX designers helped doctors across the country who thought telehealth was 5 years away get into it right now. Cultural forces and trends is a powerful group of information that you need for your UX design. Okay, so what are our experiences? Let's get into that there. So this is the stuff that you're going to make as a UX designer with all that information that we just talked about. So in my first bucket, I'm calling it screens. We understand the concept of screens. We have websites and apps, virtual assistants, kiosks, ATMs, video games, virtual reality. These are all the kinds of screens that are usually displaying some kind of an app or a website or something that UX designers that they design for. And I think we're pretty familiar with that. But I've had a few students recently ask me, like, is that all there is? Websites and apps? What else is there? They had some inkling that there was something else, and they're right. Maybe more obviously, there's smartphones, wearable devices, wearable technology, smart home technology. Remember, we talked about the Internet of Things, 3D printing, driverless cars, robotics, robots. All of this requires UX designers. Now, in some of these industries, they might be called something different. Maybe they're an industrial designer or a product designer, but it's all the same approach and it's all the same skill set. We're going to talk more about that in a second. Another group of experiences, I'm calling it experiences. I probably should have come up with a different name. Events, stunts, exhibitions, galleries, museums, retail, places, malls, parks and recreation. All of these things require experience design, user experience design. Everything to do with user experience isn't necessarily a screen. It can be a digital and physical experience. They could be synergized experiences. About a number of years ago, I was VP strategy at an entertainment marketing agency in LA, and all of our work was digital, physical, hybrid work. Maybe because we did a lot of work for the studios and networks, and maybe the experience would start on a website, and the next thing you know, you're at Radio Disney in Santa Ana, and you're watching Demi Lovato sing a song, and there's some augmented reality experience that you plug into while you're watching, and that unlocks something. And so it was this incredible experiential journey. And guess who figured all that out? UX designers. UX designers figure out all this stuff using the information to translate into experiences. And this is really the key right here. So how does this happen? It's user experience design. This is that special fusion of creativity and technology that is, there's my grandiose statement for the day, at least one of them, that creativity and technology that is itself the energy that creates worlds. Prove to me it's not. You can't. It just is. Because when you are creative and technical, you are unstoppable. If you are creative and technical, you are unstoppable. And this is a fantastic quote that I pick up from Robert Rodriguez. He's a filmmaker. He's in that Quentin Tarantino camp. If you haven't heard of Robert Rodriguez before, he did Spy Kids, Dawn Till Dusk, El Mariachi, Kill Bill, all that stuff. But more importantly than his film career, and he's done like so many music videos and everything, more important than his film career is he has this book called Rebel Without a Crew. And if you Google this on YouTube, 10-minute film school, it'll come up. In, I think it was like early 90s, he did a film, El Mariachi. It was his claim to fame. And this all comes back to UX, I promise. And he did this on a budget of like, I don't know, I want to say $7. So it was like $7,000, like something ridiculously cheap, like beyond cheap, especially for a film. And he really gave birth to the whole, independent filmmaking movement. After this film, it was so inspirational. This movie went to Sundance, it won all the awards, it turned him into the Golden Boy director, yada, yada, yada. But he wrote this book called Rebel Without a Crew. And to me, this book, Rebel Without a Crew, it might as well be talking about UX design in terms of the process and the approach and everything. But the main thing about it is just really about the attitude of filmmaking, which I think translates to UX design, about the synergy of creativity and technology. You can create anything with your training, in UX. You can make an app for that. You can make a website for that. You could start a nonprofit. You can start your own startup. You can do whatever you want with these skills. You are literally unstoppable. You can build a 3D printer to print robots and rocket ships, whatever you want. It's not just websites and apps. It's really anything. And you guys are creative and technical. You're naturally that way by your attraction to UX and by your wanting to do this and exploring it. You are naturally this way. So you guys are unstoppable. And I want you to have that dream, besides just getting a gig, besides just getting your portfolio done. I want you to have this dream of the things that you can create and add to the world, because you are unstoppable. And some of you might be saying, yeah, but I don't know how to do all that stuff. And there's the buzzer again, our favorite little buzzer. Here's my t-shirt slogan. This is kind of what I was building up to when I was talking about Robert Rodriguez, Rebel Without a Crew. UX is everything, and everything is UX. The UX process is not unique to UX. This might be surprising to some of you, but the UX process is the process of creating. The UX process, as you are taught it, as you see it, as you experience it, is the exact same process that creates everything in our 3D reality. It's the same process. Whether you're building a building, whether you're making a cup, whether you're making a mouse, I'm looking at the things, I have a fork in my salad here. Whatever it is that you have a vision to create, you have the same process. Oh, okay, well, who's going to, let's see, I'm really tired of holding this coffee in my hand. It keeps falling out. We really should invent something that holds the coffee so it's reliable and it can be there and you can drink it without getting it all over yourself. Well, who's going to use it? Who's the target audience? How big should the cup be? How strong should the paper be? Maybe it should be plastic. Let's build a prototype. Let's test it. Does that process sound familiar to you? It's the so-called UX process. But the UX process is not unique to UX. It is the process of creating everything. Look at this guy. This is supposed to be an iPhone sitting on a box there. As I was saying before, it's like this is really, this changed the world, not so long ago. And the process of creating all the apps and things that you see in here, it's the process of creating anything and everything. And obviously this product helped change the world, and UX designers did it. So I really want you guys to feel this empowerment and feel this power and this creativity, surge, and know that you can do anything with UX design. And there's never been a better time to do it because of the synergy and the confluence of all the things that we're experiencing right now, cultural forces and trends, technology, and all of that stuff. There's never been a better time. We need UX designers now to help us figure out AI, accessibility, inclusivity, the Internet of Things, all of this, because all of this is becoming real. I actually should have stayed in that screen before a moment, but the world is changing in a way where we are now being able to experience the dreams that people had just a few years ago. People were dreaming 20 years ago about things, and now they're coming true. And we need UX designers to create those experiences so that we can help people on their personal path to knowledge and happiness. That is what this is all about. All right. Without any further ado, we have 6 UX career paths and only 2 require design. Pretty good. Well, technically everything's design. Let me just have a little caveat there. All of this is design, even if you're not designing as in drawing or pixeling in Figma, it's still the design of things. Like you're an architect and you're creating a blueprint, that's design. So anyway, I digress. You get it. So UX career paths. Well, the most obvious one, UX product design. And a lot of this, and I'm not going to get everything here. So every single word that I could possibly use will not be on this slide. But UX product design, think about architecture, layout, pathways, interactions. There's whole jobs that just do that. UI design, visual design, systems, patterns, and components. Sometimes these 2 jobs are combined into one, which is probably what many of you are imagining in terms of what your career path will look like. But in some organizations, they separate them. They have one group of people doing the figuring out of the thing. How's this thing gonna, how are we going to interact with it? What do we see first? What do we see second? How is it organized? That kind of thing, versus the pixels and the components in the system. Sometimes they're one job, sometimes it's 2. Another thing, service design. How many of you have heard about service design? This is not really a new area, because technically UX designers have been doing this all along, but now they're calling it out as a separate, complete career path, and they never crack open Figma at all, or Adobe XD or Sketch or whatever other tools out there. They just do planning and business blueprints and frameworks and road mapping and journeys and all of that stuff, and all the interactive whiteboard exercises and things like that. You don't have to design anything. You just have to be a thinker and a visionary and a good planner. UX research. This is mainly where I focus my life right now, UX research and strategy, doing generative and evaluative studies, qualitative, card sorting, interviews. I love interviewing people and talking to people. I love to talk, as if you didn't know that by watching this. So it's finding out what is the real problem that we should be solving. What's like the aha moment that will really inform the design and create something truly visionary and useful for people. UX research, that's this whole thing. And you don't have to design anything. UX strategy, landscape analysis, customer journeys, personas. Sometimes strategy and research go together as one job, and sometimes they're 2 different people. Depends on the organization. But again, UX strategy may or may not design anything. UX research may or may not, probably not design anything. So actually, there's 3 things in here that never really crack open Figma. And content design. Voice, tone, labels, descriptions, instructions. More and more organizations are realizing that, all that placeholder copy that UX designers put in there doesn't always cut it. There's an art and a craft to the writing of the words. And sometimes it's the description and the visual combined that helps get a message across, that helps make the design more usable and intuitive. So content design is another player, in this design landscape. And it's a type of designer where you're not drawing anything, you're using words. So these are just some, and I could be challenged to write more, but these are individual, discrete, specific career paths that you can take, which makes this whole world of UX really interesting. And after what we've just gone through, when you saw all the things that are really the true possibilities of UX, we need all of these talents here that we're kind of listing out. What about areas of expertise? Area of expertise are really important too, and these are baked into each career path. And in 2 weeks, when I come back with another presentation about designing your career, going beyond, polishing your portfolio, what else can you do? This leans into that as well. So we talked about this a little bit. Areas of expertise that are really good to develop right now are around accessibility and inclusivity. Voice UI, we haven't talked about that. That's another biggie. Voice activated experiences. You think about, Siri and all the other tools and how it's baked in, and now you can talk to your phone and it talks back. You talk to your computer, you can talk to your refrigerator. Hey, we have any more peanut butter? No, I'm going to order some. Whatever it is, things are now activated by voice, and that's part of that pervasive, ubiquitous computing Internet of Things I was talking about. Guess who's doing that? UX designers, you guys. Sustainability, the earth is a user. I think we need to get some t-shirts. Design Lab, put that on the back of the Design Lab t-shirts. And AI and machine learning, we kind of talked about collaborating with technology to create new paradigms of interaction, increased efficiencies, and operational improvements so the robots don't eat us. We have to prevent that. Actually, I did a big strategy on this product called Pepper the Robot for SoftBank Robotics a number of years ago. And in our user research, we actually had the robot sitting with us in the room interviewing people. People were scared to death of this robot. And literally they all said, we're afraid of robots. We think they're going to kill us and eat us. And that was actually the unmet need of our launch program. How do we convince the target audience that the robots aren't going to kill us and eat us? And we did. But anyway, it was very interesting. And yes, finally, in our final moments, yes, you can make a 6-figure salary in UX. You absolutely can. And there's all the clapping people. So here's some ballpark ranges. These little caveat to this, these numbers are not exact, but they're darn close. And I can tell you that being a hiring manager myself and being someone who is hired, I can vouch for these ballpark ranges. Pretty darn close with these ranges. You'll get the idea. And these are good to know. Take a screenshot if you want for your next interview so you can quote approximately the right range. I have in-house salaries are going to be in one column and freelance hourly. These are ballpark. Okay, so paid intern or entry level, in-house 50K to 70K, freelance hourly 20 to 50 bucks an hour. This might already sound really good to some of you guys, and this is just paid intern or entry level. Generally, companies don't want to go below 50 or 60 because below that, it's not really professional services anymore. It's, they want to pay you a professional salary of some kind, and this is basically the ballpark for that. I would also, this hourly rate here, I would also call that friends and family price in case you're doing any gigs for people that you know. Junior level, this is where, most of you will probably come in if you're just starting out, between 60 and 95. Sometimes it's higher. It all depends on your background too. So for example, if your previous career was something like business analyst, solutions analyst, marketing coordinator, New York Times bestselling author, something like that, you can come in higher for your first gig. It's possible, but you never know. One of my students over a year ago now, she was a cognitive psychologist, no UX experience. She got a contract gig at AT&T, and her, when you add up her hourly, I think her starting salary was like 125, something like that. Not too bad. So it depends on your background, but this 60 to 95 range, it's kind of right in there. And it doesn't even necessarily have much to do with where you live in the country, whether you're remote or hybrid or fully on site with someone. That this is kind of the salary that I'm seeing anywhere. Even if like you're in New York City and it's so expensive, even if you're in San Francisco, they're still going to try to get you for this range. Oops, I'm going backwards. We want to go that way. Mid-senior, we're looking at in-house 90 to 175 in there. Abouts, and 55 to around 90 an hour. Again, these can ebb and flow on either end, but this is kind of the sweet spot of the range. What we call director level. Now, I should have put the years of experience in here as well, but I'll tell you why I didn't do that in a second. But director level, directors are coming in 110 to 190, and it's kind of hard to get that 190. I've been doing this for 23 years, and people, contact me for director level roles, and they're trying to, pay me what I was making 15 years ago. So you just don't know. But if you're new to the director level, this is definitely your range. And then for an hourly, 90 to 120, that could go up a little higher. Sometimes the hourly is more impacted by where you are in the country, where you live, and market competitiveness and cost of living. I see that impacts hourly rates more, although not everyone will agree with that assessment, but that is what I see. And then executive level. At this point, you've spent some time within an organization and you've worked your way up, or you've come in at a very high level because of certain area of expertise or experience that you have, or awards that you've won, or it's your own company or something like that. But I have seen with my very own eyes these ranges for executive level salaries, like starting what sounds low for an executive, 175 in a lot of areas is not considered low, but definitely it goes very, very high, as you can see, and the hourly rate is very substantial as well. I know we're almost at time. I left out years because as a new person to UX, I don't want you to worry about how many years of experience you don't have when applying to the jobs that say they want 3 to 5 years of experience. Apply to them anyway. And if you come to my presentation in 2 weeks, we'll talk more about that. I'm going to have to go really quickly. There's my little baby face there, how I got into UX. Let's see here. When I was a child, I was very goofy looking. I was a bookworm. My favorite book was Little Women. Here's a report card my mother dug up. These are E's and G's. E means excellent. G means good. What did I do? There's something in here that was really funny that I did poorly in. Maybe it was math. I only got G's in, but there's my little report card. I really started out my life as a stand-up comedian. I was the Boston comedy scene. No one's heard of that. It used to be a thing. Anyway, these are a lot of the people that I did comedy on the same stage as, Jay Leno, Dennis Leary are probably the most famous guys here. Maybe Stephen Wright or Lenny Clark. And there's me at the end. Yes, I was but a child. And I went to NYU Film School. I worked at Saturday Night Live for a while, PBS on a documentary art series called American Masters. We had some cool awards. But all of that led up to me discovering user experience design, which was called information architecture. I was self-taught on an SC. This is a Mac. This is what the Macs look like in 1994, 95. This is one of the first home computers. This is an Apple computer. So I was self-taught on that. And there's more to this story that I'll tell you about at our next presentation in a couple of weeks. These are some of the clients and companies that I've worked in-house or as a client, through an agency. And here's the 5 things you can do. We're going to go slightly over, Jessica. I'm so sorry. 5 things you can do to get into UX today. You have to be passionate. You have to ask questions about everything. Ignite your why. Let's see, this is going to go. Yes, this is going. You have to have a point of view. Pick an area of interest to develop in a body of expertise. We talked about accessibility, AI, all that stuff. Pick something and get excited about it. Your personal brand. You want to package up that passion and your point of view because when you do that, that makes you more credible and more believable. And that makes you look more professional, which makes you look hireable, even if you don't have any other experience, especially in UX, and you're trying to get a job. You want to be proactive, create your own opportunities, identify a problem to solve, and go out there and do something about it. Meaning, create your own passion projects, buddy up with another UX designer or developer, make something, volunteer, all of that. And prepare, get professional training, and connect with UX communities. Those are 5 things that you can do. Some resources for you. As I mentioned, I am a mentor at Design Lab. Some other interesting things, developforgood.org. You can volunteer for UX gigs, and that's a really important thing to do. Angel.co, go work for a startup. You can do that now. You don't have to finish your portfolio. You don't have to finish, get your certificate. You can try to get a job at a startup now. adplist.org, connect with the community, and special offer for you guys. If you email me proof of your Design Lab registration, email me at hello@getajobinux, and I will give you a free career consultation and give you some tips and tricks. And that is the end of the presentation today on the button 1 o'clock. All right. Sorry, tiny few seconds
You
over.
did
Sorry,
it!
time for any questions. Unless you can stay over, I'm not sure what you're.
We're good. Thank you so much, Christina. Thank you so much for everybody who attended. This is recorded, even if we're over, it's still being recorded. There was so much amazing information, and I'm not surprised it was packed tight. I was thankfully able to answer most of the questions in the
Oh,
queue for
thank you.
everybody, but you see Christina's email there. She has
Yeah.
kindly put that out into the world. I'm going to go ahead and guess that if you do have questions that you didn't feel like I
Yes.
answered that well for you, reach out to Christina, connect with her on LinkedIn. And I threw in the chat, if you haven't already joined with Design Lab, please use her ambassador link. If you're curious about signing up for a session, Christina is an excellent mentor, and we would love to talk to you about the program. But thank you again, Christina. Please look out for the other Design Your Future in UX events. Christina will be here again in 3 weeks. The link is for Christina's. I'll post that again one more time because I see a question. So that's how you sign up. And then if you want to sign up for more events, here is the link for those. There are 2 every week for the next 3 weeks. So much good stuff on what it's like to be a designer in this modern world, how to get a job, talking to future or fellow freelancers, fellow career changers. So we would love to see you at those. Thank you so much, everybody. And thank you again, Christina. This was just absolutely wonderful.
Oh, my absolute pleasure. And thank you, everybody. I'm scrolling through the chat now. Yeah, definitely reach out. hello@getajobinux.com. I will be happy to have a quick chat answering your questions. And, I look forward to seeing, you guys hopefully again in a few weeks for the next presentation, how to design your career.
Yes. And y'all will get some follow-up emails. You'll just get an automatic live storm with, the recording. So that's what you can use to be like, hey, Christina, I came. Please enter me in your lottery. All right, everybody. Have a fantastic rest of your day, evening, wherever you're at in the world. We had folks from all over. And I look forward to seeing your little names in the chat in future. All right. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.